changing these two notes so we don't get sued like Dr. Dre. What's up YouTube? Today I'm going to show you how to recreate the THX deep note sound. I'm going to show you two different ways to do this in phase plant, with one of the ways, as shown here, has a different oscillator for each note in the chord, but it takes a lot more effort. Like, look at all this modulation that you need to set up. So to start off, I'm going to show you a slightly easier way where we're going to play the notes of the chord in like usual in a polyphonic patch with a MIDI key roll. And you can pause the video and copy these notes in. It's pretty much a huge power chord with D's and A's alternating until we have some F sharps on the top. And as you can see, this phase plant patch on the polyphonic channel is much simpler to set up. It only has one oscillator to configure, and because of that, there's way less modulation connections to set up. So to start from scratch, let's create a new track, drag our MIDI onto it. We can solo this track, and then let's grab a fresh instance of phase plant. The first thing we're going to need is an analog oscillator. We can choose the sawtooth, turn on unison, turn down the detune a little bit, and choose 3 voices. Let's try listening to this chord to make sure we have the MIDI entered correctly. The first thing we're going to need to do is increase the polyphony voices up to 12 so that all our notes come through. And then let's increase the attack to like 3 seconds so that this huge chord doesn't just slam us in the ears. And then we can also increase the release to like 3-4 seconds. Yeah. So yeah, that's definitely the THX chord. It's coming in mono, so let's increase the stereo spread. We can just crank that all the way up for now. And then the other thing I'm noticing is that the notes are way too bright. Like the upper frequencies are coming in way too harsh compared to the THX sound. So what I'm going to do is put a filter in, but I don't want to just filter everything. That'll sound too damp. So what I'm going to do is put a note modulator on, and then I'm going to decrease this range a little bit to like 64-ish notes, and then attach this to the filter cutoff. And what this will do is open up the filter for our upper notes and close the filter for our lower notes. Okay, that's sounding better, but the upper notes are still just too loud. So the next thing I want to do is map level to velocity. So I'm going to grab a velocity modulator down here and just have that open up the level by 100%. And I should mention the reason that's working out for me is because I have already set up my MIDI like this. So you'd want to go into here and make sure your low notes have high velocities and your upper notes have lower velocities. So I've pulled up the THX logo theme sheet music so we can figure out how to create this swell from the notes from the composer of this sound. So basically what we've created so far is the right hand side of the sheet music. We have that huge chord coming into our sawtooth oscillator. You can see in the notes it says 3 voices per note, slightly detuned, just like we have in our patch right now. But what we don't have yet is this swelling. And you can see the sheet music is just these random scribbles. In the notes it says there's 30 voices at random pitches between 200 hertz and 400 hertz. And then they kind of swell and eventually start gliding towards their target note. So how can we set up phase plant to do that? Okay, so I'm going to use this mod wheel to create the swelling effect. When it's turned all the way up, we'll be at the start of the swell, and when it's turned down, we'll be at kind of our destination epic chord. So the first thing I want to do is map the mod wheel to the harmonic and modulate this down by -1. So this will basically, when we turn this mod wheel all the way up, this harmonic will be at 0, which sets it to 0 hertz no matter what note is coming in. So let me show you what that sounds like. So 0 hertz sounds like nothing. It's silence. There's no oscillation. But everything's at the same pitch at this point. So now what we can do is set this mod wheel to shift everything up by 300 hertz when it's all the way open. And then everything's going to be at 300 hertz. So it gets like it sounds like an annoying like mosquito or something once we're all at 300 hertz because they're playing exactly, all the oscillators are playing the same note. But as we glide into it, just like in the sheet music, and you can see in the spectrogram, like everything's starting out at its target note here and then heading towards 300 hertz. Some pitches are below 300 hertz, gliding towards it. Some are coming from above, and some have farther to travel. So they're basically all sort of like warping how fast they're going towards 300 hertz, and that's why we get that kind of THX stretching effect. Now, when we're at the top, we don't want to just be playing that annoying mosquito tone. We want that random drift. So let's add a random oscillator. And we want to turn this smooth all the way up and this rate way down. It should be like smoothly gliding into it. We can set this to like 0.14 hertz. And then I want to, sorry that this is off screen, but I want to make sure that this voice mode is set to independent. If you right click here, and I want to make sure the note is never triggering. So this basically will give us a different random oscillation for each note in our chord. Now, if we map this to shift the pitch by 100 hertz, we will have our pitch drifting between 200 and 400 hertz. But as you can see, the problem here is we don't want our pitch to be continuing to be random when we reach the end of this. We want to land on our target note. So what I'm going to do is first I'm going to close this random LFO's amount right here. This makes it so it's completely disabled. And then this mod wheel will open up the random amount, and I'll control it by 100%. And now let's try this out. So, I mean, that's basically 99% of the way towards that THX sound. A couple things that can get you a little bit closer is that we want the volume to also be swelling up as we go from 100% to 0. So I'm going to start with the gain turned up to where we want. Let's say like a little bit louder. And then this mod wheel will turn the volume down. Let's say down to like 20 dB. Cool. And then another thing we can do is have this detune, get more detuned as we go into the beginning of the swell. And then let's also add one other low pass filter, because I kind of notice that this sound, we kind of don't have so many high harmonics at the beginning of the THX swell. Maybe we can choose a ladder filter. That could be kind of cool. And start like at like 700 hertz. And I guess I have it kind of backwards the way I did the mod wheel, but we can start all the way open and modulate down to like 700-ish hertz. Maybe that's too closed. Let's start at like 2K. And maybe another thing we can do is have this mod wheel random rate go from something slow to something fast as we're kind of building up intensity in this swell. Like maybe we can go up to like a 10 hertz oscillation at the end. I mean, it's not really 10 hertz, it's random, but it'll just be faster. neat. Another thing is that we have this stereo spread static for all our voices, but we can use this note modulator. So maybe we turn this to like 50% and then modulate it both ways. Especially if some headphones on, you can see the stereo field is a little more controlled with the lows towards mono. And then maybe we can also do that with the blend. And I'll mention one thing here. The sheet music says that the low voices only have two detuned, two unison voices. But the way I have it set up with this polyphonic patch, like you can't really choose different amounts of detune. So you'd either need two patches and play like the bass notes with the two and the treble notes with the three unison voices, or you can do what I've done over here, and I've basically created a different oscillator for each note in the chords. You have the first harmonic, second harmonic, third harmonic, fourth harmonic, 6, 8, 12, 16, 19, 24, 32, 39, and also this I already it should be 40 here and 20 here. Sorry about that. I edited it to be a minor chord, but with the 20th harmonic and the 40th, it's a major chord. And yeah, it's kind of annoying. Like, look how many I had to map the detune to like all these different oscillators. And in Phaseplant, you can modulate a lot, but one macro like doesn't let you modulate more than, what is that? It's like probably like 16 different things. So I just needed to create this huge chain of things, even though it's only this mod wheel that's moving. Yeah, if that makes any sense. It's a lot of a pain to have the patch this way, but I do think it sounds slightly better. So let me first drop some of the external effects I was using on this patch we built. So you can put hybrid reverb on if you want to stay in Ableton. It's pretty much the same thing. I like this Convology XT convolution reverb. And then instead of OTT, I have been really enjoying Pro Audio DSM. It's a spectral compressor. And I just chose the tape preset on the dry wet at like 90%. I think I turned up the gain too. And yeah, let's hear what this sounds like before and after the effects. Yeah, and maybe one other thing that would be helpful. Let's modulate the mod wheel with the same settings I had over here. Just trying to kind of match the THX sound a bit. All right, let me first show you with the effects disabled. And then let me enable the effects and replay that. And lastly, as a comparison, let me show you what this version sounds like, which has one oscillator per note in the chord. Yeah. Yeah, so it's basically the same idea as the polyphonic patch. The only difference is that instead of kind of using note modulators like we did in the other ones to have like different amounts of spread or change the level with the velocity, we can actually just like edit it right here. So it's not even necessarily more control. It's kind of just like a better user interface for controlling things. You can just, exactly dial in or type in whatever you want for each note in the chord. And it's just kind of easier for me to dial it in how I want. The one thing that actually is completely different though is that I have different filters for each note in the chord, and they actually kind of compound. So the first oscillator is filtered by 250 hertz, and then it gets summed together with this oscillator, and then they're both filtered by 400 hertz, and so on. And again, I can kind of all tune these things to taste instead of just using the note modulator. And then the biggest difference is that I stop having a filter as we add these upper harmonics. So anyway, there's that. I will give links to both patches in the description, so no worries about trying to recreate this from scratch. It would just take a lot of time to put that in the video and lots of watching me connect wires. But all the content was in the first Polyphonic patch. So yeah, I guess that's it for today. I hope you enjoyed it, and I'll see you next time.